Hello and welcome to the Art of Selling Online Courses. We're here to share winning strategies and secret hacks from top performers in the online course industry. My name is John Ainsworth and today's guest is Julie Hood. She helps turn coaches, consultants and podcasters into well-paid experts with their own amazing online courses created quickly and easily. She shares the best tools, resources and strategies from her 20 years of working with brand new and seven-figure experts each week on her Course Creators HQ podcast and her website at coursecreatorshq.com. And today we're going to cover 5 reasons why people aren't buying your online course. Before we get into that, I got something I want to tell you about, and you've probably heard me talk about it before on previous podcasts, but if you haven't done it, this is your opportunity. So what we've got is this free offering, where we will figure out for you how much more money you could be making from your online course. You put in answers in the survey. What's your audience size? What's your email list size? How many courses you got? All this kind of thing. And we'll figure out for you personally how much more you could make. And then if you're at the right kind of scale, we'll also do a free video review for you of your funnel. So we'll go through your sales page and your checkout page, and we'll give you pointers as to what you can improve. So if you're interested and that sounds good, go to courseprofitreport.com and fill out the survey. Julie, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, John.
Cool. Okay, so let's get into it. 5 key reasons why people aren't buying your online course. Hit us. What's reason number 1?
Yeah, I love talking about this because some of them are in your control and some of them aren't. So the first one is that you haven't gotten in front of enough people. And so I have this rule of 97 that I like to share with my students, and that is, out of 100 people that you meet when you're in promotion mode, probably 97 of them aren't ready to buy right at that moment. So you have to keep getting in front of more and more people and capture those 97. So we can get those 3 buyers, those other 97 folks. We want to capture them on email or maybe in social media, but especially email if you can make it work, so that then when they are ready to buy, you are top of mind, you're coming up in their feeds, in their email inboxes, and then they're ready to jump in with you. So that using your launch periods to recognize, like, I've got to get in front of a lot of people at this moment, and then recognizing I'm going to find some people who aren't quite ready, so I want to capture them anyway. That's kind of the big lesson, is getting in front of enough people that you get enough buyers right off the bat.
And so what are you doing with people in terms of getting in front of enough people? Are you working with people on ads or on doing joint ventures or building up a social media audience or SEO, or like, are people coming to you, they've already got an audience? Like, how does it work for you? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm a little different in that I don't have one thing that I tell people you need to go do X. I like to figure out, what is it they like to do? So Are you a big blogger? Are you a big speaker? Are you a big video person? Because depending on that, then we can point you toward the ones that you really like to do that you can get consistent and regular with. So one of my students, she loves to write. So we do lots of blogging for her. She's out there getting in front of doing guest blog posts. Another one of my connections, they really love to speak. So we are on Clubhouse. She has a podcast, that's kind of the direction for her. And then my video folks, there's lots of places where they can play, depending on whether they want to do YouTube or do Reels and all the short form videos, and then just getting out with lives and those kind of video things. So I try to really focus in, and I'm sure you do this too, on the things they like, because if you don't like to do it, it's going to be really hard to be consistent.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, we don't do that at all, because what we do is we only work with people who've already built up an audience. So we don't actually do anything around how do you figure out, but I think it's super valuable. Like, I've gone through, it was a quiz from Perry Marshall called the Marketing DNA Test, marketingdnatest.com, that I went through to figure out, how do you like to create stuff yourself? Like, kind of what you're saying, right? Like, is it video, is it audio, is it written, is it pre-recorded, is it live, all these kind of things. And because like Perry Marshall's an engineer, like the whole report that you get at the end of it is like terribly technical looking and a little bit overwhelming if you're not the right kind of personality type for it. But it's exactly the same concept as what you're talking about, right? So are you often working with people who don't have an audience when they come to you and they're just getting going with it? And it's like, because I guess in that case, it's going to take a while, isn't it, for them to build up enough audience for it to be making much money?
Yeah, that's the big challenge, is how quickly can you get to that point where you've got the big enough audience, you're in front of enough people that you're getting the cash coming in the door that you need to. So we tend to send them, I want you to have one-on-one kind of offers so that you can have some higher price things in addition to your courses to help fuel that time of building. And, if you decide to do Facebook ads, we need the capital for that. So let's figure out how we're going to get some cash coming in the door to help in that building stage.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I chatted with Jane Segalovich about this kind of thing a while ago. What she does is she teaches people, first of all, she's working with people who are already, I think, doing like one-to-one work. They're already a consultant. They've already got the one-to-one stuff. So then she gets them to do like a group coaching program, because then you don't need that many people signing up, and you might be charging like $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 or something for that program. And then as you go through and you teach that enough times in group coaching, you're creating your course, and then you can take the course out and sell it individually. And it's kind of what we did when we made our program. It's like we did stuff one-to-one, we got an agency, and then we did we did one-to-one coaching, and then group coaching, and then we're now starting to sell our course as well. And I think it works more easily when it's like that, because the audience size you need with a course to make good money is actually quite big. Whereas with one-to-one stuff, you only need a couple of clients and you're away.
I agree. And when you have those one-to-one clients, you really learn like what the problems are. You get into the nitty-gritty of, this is what I've got to make sure I have in my course, because this is the big obstacles and problems that are coming up. So
like I thought this was easy, but everyone gets stuck here. So I need to add that in and teach people how do you do it. And okay, I've taught people how to do it, but then they don't do it. Like, okay, why aren't they? All of these little details that actually matter to like get the results, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're on the same page, exactly how we approach it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So step one, not getting in front of enough people. And then there's lots of ways of approaching that in order to make sure you're getting in front of enough people and to cash flow it in order to get there. But that's the crucial idea. Make sure you're in front of enough people. Okay, cool. What's step two?
So they may not know you well enough yet. We all talk about that know, like, and trust factor, but one of my mentors also said, and I thought this was so good, they have to believe that you can help them. And that's different. That's a whole different level than know, like, and trust, getting them to the point where they believe in you. And it depends on the person. Some people are a little more spontaneous. They'll jump in. But some of the other folks, they just need a little time. And depending on what topic you're in, it can vary quite a bit. So for me, when I'm helping people get their courses created, sometimes I'll get folks who it's not perfect timing for them. They don't know me enough yet. So I try to make sure they're listening to the podcast and that I get them on my email list. So I went back and I looked at some of the clients that I've worked with the most that have been with me and doing all my stuff. And a few of them had been on my list for like 18 months. So if I had given up after a few months because they hadn't signed up for my course, I would have lost them. I had to just keep going and keep providing content. The other piece of it that I think can really help with this too is, how can you connect with them personally so that they know that you're on their side, them. So I have a couple different things I'll do with this. The big one for me is I like to connect with people in Clubhouse rooms. And I know it's not super popular right now, but I still am having good luck with connecting with people in Clubhouse. So because we get to talk, they get to come up on stage and I get to hear, what is it you're working on? Where are you stuck? How can I help you? And they get that personal attention. So, and there's lots of ways you can do that. You can have direct messaging where you're connecting with people, but I think any place where you are able to give them personal advice and personal suggestions, that really, really helps with connecting and like getting them to that belief stage where they're like, this is the person for me. I've got to jump in. This is the right time.
Okay. And I'm curious because it makes a big difference, I think, in terms of how much someone has to believe it. Like, what kind of price point stuff are you helping people to sell with the courses?
Yeah, so that does make a big difference. So I have people at all different price ranges and all my stuff at all different price ranges. But I like for you to think about it, or my students to think about it as, is this a plunk down course where I'll just plunk down my credit card without thinking about it very, very hard? That's a different way of selling Then once you get up to the higher price points, then you might need to be getting on phone calls with people. You might need to be setting those appointments when you hit those 1,000, 2,000 and up. I think that's where you really have to have a different way that you're trying to sell. So depending on how you like to sell, that might affect where you want to put your price points too. You know, if you don't like getting on phone calls and setting appointments and doing that kinds of work, then maybe you're going to go more for volume and have a lower price point. So it just depends. That's the best part about us owning our own businesses. We get to decide how we want to do it. And we get to decide, am I going to sell it this way or am I going to sell it that way?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? And it's like some people treat this as like an either or kind of a thing. And I don't think it even needs to be, because if you look at, like, there's a lot of people who are listening who they are selling courses that are relatively cheap, that are the plunk down things you were talking about, right? Like it's $100, $200, $50, this kind of price point, right, for courses. And we've got clients who were doing that, and we like had one guy, we helped him scale from 3,000 a month to 10,000 a month. And then he started doing a group coaching program as well, which was like, I forget the exact price point, but it's like thousands, right? 3,000, 4,000, whatever. And he jumped to $20,000 a month. And it's like, well, that's quite a big difference, right? Because he started doing that as well. And if you've got a big audience, you don't necessarily need to do loads of sales calls with them. You could be like, only get on this call if you are definitely interested. You're not like, conversion rate of 20% of sales calls and brutally working your way through them. You're like, just message everybody and say, we've got this program. If you're interested, message me back. And then you have a little chat via email or something like that, So I think it can make sense to mix and match it. Like you were saying about, because you're a business owner, you can set up however you want. But I think there's even more ways of doing that than people realize. But yeah, that belief thing, step 2, this like, don't know you well enough. That is much easier if you're selling cheap courses. They don't have to really feel like they know and trust you in a deep sense to spend $67. It's like, fuck it, I'll give it a go. It's like, why not? If it doesn't work, it's like, I've lost $67. I don't feel like an idiot. If you spend $6,000 on something and it's totally not right for you, you feel like a bit of a plonker. Is that a very English word, plonker? I think it probably is. Yeah.
I like it though, because I've had that. I've had those coaches, the multi-$1,000 coaches that didn't deliver. So we don't want those.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So step 1, not in front of enough people. Step 2, they don't know you well enough. What's step 3?
So step 3 is that your messaging is off. And I probably need to explain that a little bit more, but the audience is coming across you. They don't know what they're getting and they don't know the result that you're giving. And that result, that transformation, that outcome part of it is so, so important, because a lot of the creators and the course creators I connect with, they're so excited about, hey, I've got this course and it's got 8 lessons and 15 videos and 20 different worksheets, and you're going to get all this stuff and all this time with me. And I'm like, okay, that's great, but what's the outcome? What is that big thing that when I do your course, what am I going to get from you?
Yeah. How's my life going to be different? Like, what's better? Like, in what way is my actual like day-to-day experience of the world improved because I've gone through it? Like, I don't care how many lessons. In fact, personally, when I see there's like 100 hours of video, I'm like, well, I'm not taking that bloody course then, am I? Because it's like, I haven't got 100 hours to spend going through your lessons. Yeah, that transformation is massive, isn't it?
Yes. And one of the coaches that I've worked with, her name's Brooke Castillo, and I steal this story from her because I think it's so good. Borrow this story from her. lovingly borrow it. Yeah. Because I think it's brilliant. And so she said, imagine for a moment that you're going to the dentist and the dentist says to you, hey, you know what? You're going to have to get a root canal. I'm sorry. And I have 2 different ways we can do this. And they're the same price. It doesn't cost you any different. But one is going to take us 5 minutes and one is going to take us an hour. Like, which one do you want? And of course, we're all going to pick that 5-minute root canal. And it's kind of the same thing with your courses, because people don't want to spend hours and hours and hours going through all this content. What they want is for you to narrow your course down to where it's the minimum that they have to watch, that they have to do, but they're going to get that result That's the big key in knowing that result and knowing that minimum. Because the other thing, since I work with a lot of newer coaches, they want to give all this value, like they want to give everything they can. So they put all of their content into this big, huge course. They don't get it finished, or it's so big that people don't finish it when they get into it. So I try to kind of stop that in their tracks and be like, let's not do that. Let's keep it as simple as we can. Do that 5-minute root canal. And really focus on the outcome so that the people you're coming across recognize, like, okay, this is what I'm going to get. And she's going to simplify it and make it as easy as possible. I think if you can do that, you'll be way ahead of a lot of the course creators out there.
It was super interesting, right? So when we started planning out our course for people, we had this whole long list of things we were going to cover. And we had like, okay, here's our 12-month program. And it was like webinars and video sales letters and challenges and launches and ads and all this stuff. And then we decided I went through a course about creating courses, and I decided what we're going to do is do an 8-week or 6-week, like quick wins first. We're going to start with that. We'll get the quick wins. And then later on, we'll go and build the whole rest of the course. And so we broke it down and we figured out these 8 steps, that we teach people about. And it's like order bumps and upsells and email promotions, all these steps. And what we found was we never made the rest of the course, because it takes people like 3 to 6 months. Like, you could go through the course, maybe 10 hours worth of like actual videos. You can go through it in a week, right? But you do it 1 week at a time for 8 weeks. And then at the end of that, you've got stuff done, except actually really it took you 3 months because you had a couple of other things that came up and whatever else. And then you reach the end of the 3 months and you've gone through and you've done all the steps. And then you go back through and you optimize them. And then some of them need doing repeatedly, like email promotions. And what we found was, no, this is it. This quick thing that we thought was the quick wins, that's the entire thing. And like, we've had people been going through that program like for 2 years. Like now they've got a lot of the stuff in place, but they're consistently sending out email promotions. So they get back on a call every week and we go through like, what's your offer for next month? What things are you going to be promoting? Have you got emails from before that you could reuse? If not, let's talk through that's just the work, right? It's like actually doing this. And if you've got 50 other training modules in there, it's enormously distracting. So that work of cutting it down that you're talking about, to like really narrowing it down to like, what's the 5-minute root canal, is so valuable to people. It's unbelievably valuable to people.
Yes. And it sounds like you guys have done that. So kudos.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. Like, yeah. I will say it's really tough. I think there's a quote from Apple's Steve Jobs that talks about how hard it is to keep things simple and what to say no to. Like, it's so much easier to just kind of throw everything we know out and say, okay, this is going to be great because it's everything.
Yeah.
But that's where the value comes.
Well, I love that you help people with that. I think that's awesome. I think we got there more by luck than judgment, to be honest. Like, honestly, we went through, nobody was saying to us, this is just cut all the rest of it out. We went through and we did that. And then we were like, oh shit, that's actually all that we need. And so I didn't know that in advance. So the fact you're helping people with that, I think it sounds great. I think a lot of people need that support. So that's really cool. Okay, cool. So that was step 3. So we've got not in front of enough people, don't know you well enough, messaging is off. Step 4, what's that?
So this is one you don't really have control over, but it's good to know. And that's the timing just isn't right. So for example, like this weekend, I'm doing a 3-day intensive to help people. Like, we're going to crank out their mini course this weekend over 24 hours. But, if this is football weekend and they're out with their kids all weekend and the timing just isn't right, they're not going to be able to jump in with me. So, that happens and that's okay. So what helps, I think, if you're the course creator and you're trying to figure out, like, how do I deal with this? There's going to be people that the timing isn't right. Couple different things that I like to have you do. First one is plan out long-term, like, how are you going to fit your stuff into the year, and think about the different times of the year, different schedules for your audience, because sometimes could be better, sometimes could be worse. So really thinking about that timing, I think can help with that. And then the second piece that has been really helpful is when you let people sign up and you say you can come back the next time too. So
Okay.
they get like, especially if you're doing it as a group coaching kind of thing, if this timing isn't perfect for you, I'll let you come back the next time too. And I think that takes away that, oh, this isn't the right time for me. Because
Mm,
I don't know about you, but everybody says, I'm so busy, I don't have time for this right now.
mhm.
We're all going to have that. So you want to come up with some things that you can help with that objection. So those are my two big ones to help with the whole timing thing.
Nice. All right, cool. Step 5. Now, you told me this is a big one, so we might have to just do the quick wins bullet points part on this. So talk us through step 5.
Yeah. So step 5 is your pricing. And I'm sure you get this too. There's so many people that are like, what should I charge for my course?
Mm-hmm.
And, your pricing could be holding back. Some people it could be too low, like you're not getting as much revenue as you should. But if they're not signing up, then we want to play with pricing.
Mm-hmm.
And after you've tried the other things. So I like, and I'm a little bit different in that, some people will start super high and then it doesn't sell. And then they have to think about, okay, now let me try lowering the price. But then your people who bought at that high price kind of leaves a sticky taste in their mouth. Like, I paid that much for it. So I kind of like to start at those lower price points, not drop dead low, but lower. And then what you do is you train your audience. And this is what I've done with my email folks. I'm like, the first time I offer you something, that's going to be the best price you are ever going to see. So you need to jump in now, because the next time I offer this, it's going to be higher. It's going to be higher. And so I'm really consistent with that, of keeping the specific offers, the prices go up. And then if I ever do want to change pricing, I change the offer. So it's not the same thing. It's a very different
Okay.
offer.
Okay.
So those are some ways to like test pricing. If you really want to, if you're wondering, like, is my audience price sensitive or not? Because I think it varies so much with what you're selling and what your audience is like. Because I had one gal when I very first started, this was probably like, I don't know, 17 years ago. And she's like, I really want to help moms who their husbands have lost their jobs. And I talked to her and I said, this is going to be a tough sell for you, because,
this is a charity.
when people lose their jobs, they aren't going out and getting coaching and courses. Like, they are cutting down to the bare minimum. So go do something else and fund that as a charity, basically.
Yeah.
As opposed to people who are like golfers who buy everything under the sun, every course, every gadget, every tool. They're so dedicated to their hobby. That's an audience that's less price sensitive. So I think one of the things that course creators learn as they get to know their audience a little bit better is, how price sensitive are they? You may not know that at the beginning, but I think it's one of the things you want to keep in mind.
Interesting. One of the things we see is that, because a lot of our people are selling courses through the site, so they have an audience, right, coming to the website or through social media or whatever. And people just go and buy the courses. So they're not doing much in the way of email promotions. They're not doing much in the way of email capture. They're not doing like loads of work around webinars, any of that kind of stuff, right? People just go to the site and buy the course. And as a result of which, they're selling their courses way too cheap, because if somebody's going to go to your site and just buy, it's got to be underpriced, really, for that to kind of actually convert. Whereas
that
if you do
down factor, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So cheap that it's like, oh, that's fine, I could just do that. I don't have to trust this person all that much for this to be worth it. And then you start doing email capture and email promotions and building trust and getting the messaging right and all that kind of stuff, right? And you find that you could charge like double for the same course, exactly the same course, and people will be delighted. And one of the funnest things is, if you ever do an email promotion where you say, we're going to put the price up, this is the last chance to buy it at the current price. That is the biggest converting email promotion you'll ever have. Way better than when you have it higher price and you lower it. Because if you have it higher price and you lower it, people are like, oh, you'll lower it again at some point. But when you're putting the price up, people are like, oh, I better get it now. That's like last chance kind of thing.
Well, and it works on me as a buyer.
Yeah.
All the time. I'm like, okay, I'm going to jump in now because this is a good price. So, exactly.
Nice. All right, cool. So we had 5 reasons people aren't buying your online course. You're not in front of enough people. They don't know you well enough. Messaging's off. timing isn't right and your pricing isn't right. Boom. Love it. All right, cool.
Yeah. And I think if you get those figured out, you're a long way ahead of most of the course creators out there, and getting your courses going. Like those are the big ones. After that, it gets much more nuanced. So
perfect. If people love this and they're like, right, I need more Julie in my life, I need to learn more about this, get some support from Julie, find out if she's the person to help me, where can they go? What's the places people go next?
Oh, thanks for asking. So I have a podcast. It's the Course Creators HQ podcast, where we talk about all these things, pull out usually shorter episodes, 15, 20-minute episodes. So that'd be great. I also have a freebie if you don't mind sharing with everybody. And it is a mini course all about, is your idea any good or not? So we go through a few exercises for about 15 minutes, kind of figure out, like, is this a good course idea or not? So would love to have everybody jump on that if it's interesting.
Cool. Okay, so that's coursecreatorshq.com/John Idea. Is that right?
Yeah,
perfect.
Exactly.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you very much for that. I think that'll help a lot of people. If you're listening to this and you found it useful, you want to get future episodes, please subscribe wherever you listened. Go check out Julie's links, find out if your course is a good idea, listen to her podcast, get loads of useful tips. Definitely Julie's doing some stuff that we don't help with at all. So for a whole bunch of people listening, this is going to be a really good fit. Get her support and make a lot more money from your course. Julie, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate your time. This has been fantastic. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, John. I love chatting about this stuff. So thanks for having me.